Dr. Teo walked slowly through the white corridors of the Coalition Research Station on planet Velox 7. The hallway lights were bright and cold, just like everything else in this alien place. His footsteps made soft sounds on the smooth metal floor. He had been working here for only 3 months, but already he felt like he belonged. He was the first human to be a doctor on an alien research station, and he took this job very seriously. The laboratory at the end of the corridor was massive. Inside, there were machines and computers that humans did not even have on Earth. Scientists from 3 different alien races worked together in this lab. There were the Tarians, with their blue skin and 4 arms. There were the Cuthrians, who were tall and had skin that looked like purple crystal. And there were the Zephilians, small creatures with bright eyes and very quick movements. All of them worked with tools and looked at screens, trying to understand something very dangerous. Dr. Kira, the lead researcher and a Tarian, turned to see Dr. Teo enter the room. She had 4 eyes that looked at him all at once. This always made Teo feel a little strange, but he was getting used to it now. "Dr. Teo, thank you for coming," Dr. Kira said. Her voice was soft but strong. "We have something we need to show you. We found something on the surface of Velox 7 that we do not understand, and we do not know how to make it safe." Teo walked over to the main computer screen. On it, he could see pictures of a very small bottle. The bottle was dark brown, and inside it was a liquid that looked like it was moving on its own. The liquid was silver and bright, like mercury mixed with light. "What is it?" asked Teo. "We think it is a toxin," said a Cathrian scientist named Vor. His voice was very deep and echoed a little. "We found it in caves deep beneath the planet's surface. We think it might be a weapon. Or maybe it is just a very old poison that someone left here long ago." Dr. Kira pointed to another screen. This one showed data and numbers. "We have tested this toxin on small animals from different worlds. The results are always the same. Every creature dies, and it dies very fast. We are talking about seconds, Dr. Teo, not minutes. Seconds." Teo leaned closer to look at the data. He saw the names of different creatures. A small Zephilian animal called a krell, a young Cathrian test subject, a Tarian bird. Each one had a timeline next to its name. Each timeline showed the same thing: life, then a sudden stop. 2 to 5 seconds. That was all the time any creature had from the moment it touched the toxin until it was dead. "How many tests?" Teo asked. 47 tests, said Vor. "All the same result. There is no survival. There is no recovery. The toxin attacks the brain directly. It breaks down the walls that keep the brain safe. Then it destroys everything. Death is very fast and very painful." Teo felt something cold move through his chest. This was serious. This was the most dangerous thing he had ever heard about. A Zephilian scientist named Mina flew over to them. She was very small, maybe 1 meter tall, but her mind was very big. She pointed at a smaller screen. "We have studied the chemical makeup of the toxin. It is very complex. We have never seen anything like it before. It seems to have been made by a very advanced civilization. But that civilization is long gone now." Dr. Kira led Teo to a special room inside the laboratory. This room was completely sealed. There were thick glass walls, and inside the glass room was a tiny drop of the silver liquid on a metal table. Even from far away, Teo could see it moving slowly like it was alive. "We keep it in this sealed room," said Dr. Kira. "But we are not even sure this is safe enough. If the container breaks, if anything goes wrong, the toxin could get out. And if it gets out, we do not know how far it could spread. We do not know if we could stop it." Teo looked at the toxin for a long time. He was thinking. His mind was working very fast. He was looking for something. Something that the other scientists might have missed. "Can I see the full analysis?" he asked. "The complete chemical breakdown, everything you know about it." Dr. Kira nodded. She brought him to a workstation, and for the next 2 hours, Teo looked at numbers and pictures and data. He looked at the molecular structure of the toxin. He looked at what it did to the brains of the test animals. He looked at the speed of the reaction. He looked at everything. And then he saw something. It was small. It was easy to miss. But it was there. "Dr. Kira," Teo said quietly, "I think you might have missed something." Dr. Kira came over with all 4 eyes focused on him. "What did you see?" "The toxin," Teo said, pointing at the screen. "It reacts to different metabolic rates. Look here, the Krell died in 2 seconds. The Cathrion test subject died in 3 seconds. The Tarian bird died in 4 seconds. They all died, yes, but the time is different. It depends on how fast their body uses energy. It depends on their metabolism." 4 came over and looked carefully. "So the faster the metabolism, the faster the death?" "Maybe," said Teo. "Or maybe not. Maybe a different metabolism would react differently. Maybe there is a body that could survive this. Maybe there is a biology that this toxin was not designed for." The laboratory became very quiet. All the scientists looked at each other. "Are you thinking what I think you are thinking?" asked Mina. Teo took a deep breath. "I am thinking that humans have a very unusual metabolism. We have survived on Earth for millions of years with creatures and diseases and dangers that no other species has ever faced. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived things that should have killed us. Maybe our body is different enough. Maybe human biology is resistant to this toxin in a way that other biology is not." "That is a very big maybe," said Dr. Kira carefully. "Yes," agreed Teo. "It is. But it is a maybe that is worth testing." Dr. Kira, Vor, and Mina all looked at each other without speaking. They were communicating with their eyes, the way they always did when they wanted to talk about something serious. Finally, Dr. Kira looked back at Teo. "You are suggesting that a human should be tested with this toxin?" "I am suggesting," said Teo slowly, "that I should be tested with this toxin." The room became very, very quiet. Outside the laboratory windows, the alien sky of Velox 7 was turning orange as the sun moved down toward the horizon. Dr. Teo stood and looked out at this strange and beautiful world. He knew he had just said something that would change everything. He did not know if it was the bravest thing he had ever done or the most foolish thing, but he knew it was the right thing to do. In the laboratory behind him, the alien scientists began to talk. And in that moment, the future began to change. The Coalition High Council met in emergency session to discuss Dr. Teo's proposal. The meeting happened through video screens in the research station's main communication room. On the screens, voices came from distant worlds. Some voices spoke in favor of the test. Some voices spoke against it. Most voices were very angry. "This is completely against protocol," shouted a Tarian official from his home world. His voice was so loud that the speakers crackled. "You cannot simply allow a human to volunteer for death just because he has a theory. This is insane. This is suicide. This is murder." "I am not asking to allow him to commit suicide," said Dr. Kira, her voice calm and steady. "I am asking to allow him to participate in a scientific test. He is a doctor. He understands the risks. He understands that he might die. And he is willing to risk his life for knowledge. Is this not what science requires of us sometimes?" A Cathrian representative spoke next. She had a voice like ice. "And if he survives? If his body can really survive this toxin? What then? Do we suddenly make all humans special members of the coalition? Do we begin to fear them? Do we see them as biological weapons?" "We will worry about what happens if he survives when he survives," said Dr. Kira. "If he dies, then we have lost one brave scientist, and we still will not know the answer. If he lives, then we have learned something very important about how different biologies respond to this threat." The voting took a very long time. The final vote was 47-1 against allowing the experiment. Only Dr. Kira abstained from voting. She did not vote yes and she did not vote no. She simply said that she would respect the choice of the human doctor, whatever that choice was. But the rules said that if the lead scientist felt strongly about something, they could allow it to proceed anyway. So Dr. Kira made the decision. The experiment would happen. 3 days later, the laboratory was transformed into something that looked like a hospital room. One section of the lab was completely sealed off with thick glass walls. Inside this sealed room, there was a comfortable chair with many sensors attached to it. There were machines that could watch Dr. Teo's heart. There were machines that could watch his brain. There were machines that could watch his blood. Every part of his body that could be watched would be watched. Outside the sealed room, Dr. Kira and her team sat at control panels. They had equipment that could stop his heart if it became too dangerous. They had medicines that could help him breathe if his lungs stopped working. They had everything ready, or at least they hoped they had everything ready. No one really knew. Dr. Teo's human colleagues were there too. There was Nurse Minho, who was kind and strong and had been Teo's friend since they were in medical school together on Earth. There was Nurse Seo Wan, who was a surgical expert and could move her hands faster than anyone Teo had ever seen. Both of them looked very worried. "You do not have to do this," Minho said to Teo before the test began. "You can change your mind. No one would blame you. No one would call you a coward." Teo put his hand on his friend's shoulder. "I know, but I have to do this. I have to know if I am right. I have to know if humans are really that different. And I have to know if we can help." Teo sat down in the chair. The medical team attached sensors to his chest, his arms, and his head. His heart was beating very fast. His hands were shaking a little. He was scared. He knew that in a few minutes he might be dead. Real, actual dead. Not sleeping, not dreaming. Just gone. Dr. Kira prepared the toxin. She took a tiny amount of the silver liquid from the sealed container and placed it in a small glass vial. The vial was no bigger than Teo's thumb. But Teo knew that this tiny amount of liquid was enough to kill him in seconds. "Are you ready?" asked Dr. Kira. Teo looked at Minho. Minho looked back at him with tears in his eyes. Teo nodded slowly. "I am ready," Teo said. Dr. Kira handed the vial through a special opening in the glass. Teo took it carefully. His hands were steady now. His fear had become something else. It had become focus. He brought the vial to his lips. He thought about his family on Earth. He thought about his mother, who wanted him to be safe. He thought about his dream to help others, to learn new things, to be part of something bigger than himself. Then he drank. The liquid tasted terrible. It was bitter and metallic and wrong. Teo could feel it going down his throat. He could feel it entering his stomach. And then nothing happened for 1 second, 2 seconds, and then everything happened at once. The pain started in his head. It was not like any pain Teo had ever felt before. It was not like a headache. It was not like a broken bone. It was like electricity and fire and ice all burning through his skull at the same time. His vision went blurry. His ears started ringing very loudly. His heart was beating so fast now that it sounded like a drum. His whole body was shaking. He could not control his muscles. They were moving on their own, jerking and spasming. On the monitors, the alien scientists could see what was happening inside his body. His neural activity was going crazy. His brain was lighting up like a firework. His heart rate was climbing higher and higher. "He is in severe distress," said Vor urgently. "We should stop this. We should give him medicine. We should do something." But Dr. Kira was watching something else. She was watching the rate of change. She was watching to see if Teo's body was adapting. She was watching to see if he was still conscious. Because somehow, impossibly, Teo was still conscious. Through the pain, through the horror, Through the sensation that his whole body was being destroyed from the inside, Teo's mind was still working. He reached out with a shaking hand. He grabbed a data pad that was on the arm of his chair. With fingers that would barely obey him, he began to type. "Neural firing rate increased 400%, he wrote. His hand moved slowly. The words were shaky and hard to read, but they were there. Cellular inflammation in left brain, pupils dilated, heart beating too fast but still beating. Vor looked at the screen and made a sound of surprise. He is still conscious. He is taking notes. While his body is dying, he is taking notes. He is not dying, said Dr. Kira, and for the first time there was emotion in her voice. Look at the data. Look at the rate of change. It is not getting worse anymore. It is staying the same. His body is not dying. His body is holding. Teo continued to type. The pain was still there, but it was changing. It was not getting better. But it was not getting worse. It was stabilizing. His heart was still beating too fast, but it was becoming more regular. His brain was still on fire, but the fire was not spreading. 5 minutes passed, then 10 minutes. His neural activity is decreasing, said Mina, reading the data. Slowly, but it is decreasing. His inflammation markers are starting to go down. His body is fighting back. Teo wanted to smile, but his face would not obey him. Instead, he typed again. Pain level now 8 out of 10. Consciousness maintained. Adaptation occurring. In that moment, everyone in the laboratory knew that they were witnessing something incredible. A human body, designed on a world that had killed everything else that tried to survive there, was adapting to a toxin that was supposed to kill any living thing in seconds. Dr. Teo, the first human doctor on an alien space station, was not just surviving. He was proving that humanity was something far more special than anyone had ever known. Dr. Teo remained in the sealed room through the entire night. The monitor showed his vital signs continuing to improve, slowly but steadily. The pain that had started at level 8.5 was now at level 6. His heart was still beating fast, but it was becoming more normal. His brain activity was still high, but it was no longer chaotic. It was organized. It was adapting. By morning, Teo had survived 14 hours. No alien creature in any of their tests had ever survived more than 5 seconds. Now there was a human sitting in a sealed room, still conscious, still taking notes, still alive. The news spread through the Coalition research station like fire. Scientists who had been sleeping woke up and came to the laboratory. Scientists from other stations sent urgent messages asking for updates. The High Council, which had voted against the experiment, sent a message asking for a full report every hour. The impossible was happening, and the entire galaxy was starting to pay attention. Dr. Kira and her team worked without sleeping. They took blood samples from Teo through a special tube. They analyzed the blood on machines. What they found was remarkable. Nurse Yoon Jin, a human specialist who worked in the research station's chemistry lab, examined the first blood sample carefully. She looked at the cells through a powerful microscope. What she saw made her call out to everyone in the room. "Come and look at this," she said, her voice full of wonder. Dr. Kira and Vor hurried over. They looked through the microscope at Teo's white blood cells. These cells were the ones that fought infections and dangers in the body. What they saw was extraordinary. The white blood cells were not just fighting the toxin. They were learning from it. They were changing their shape. They were developing new tools to break down the poison. It was like watching soldiers learn a new way to fight during a battle. "This should not be possible," said Vor. His deep voice became even deeper with shock. "The toxin breaks down neural tissue. There is no way for a cell to adapt to something like this so quickly. It takes weeks for the immune system to learn how to fight something new. Your friend has been infected for only a few hours." But humans do not have weeks, said Dr. Kira slowly, understanding something important. Humans evolved on a dangerous planet. They had to fight diseases and poisons very quickly, or they died. So maybe their immune system learned to be faster. Maybe it learned to adapt in hours instead of weeks. By the 18th hour, Teo's pain had decreased to level 4. He was exhausted, but he was still conscious. He was still typing notes. His heart had returned to nearly normal speed. The swelling in his brain was going down. Minho asked to speak with Teo through the communication system. They could hear each other, but they could not touch. "How are you feeling?" Minho asked, and his voice was filled with worry and love. "I feel like I've been hit by a truck," Teo said, and even though he was still in pain, he managed to laugh a little. "But I feel like I am going to live. I think my body is winning the fight." "Your body is more than winning," said Dr. Kira, who was listening to every word. "We have analyzed your blood. Your immune system is not just fighting this toxin. It is learning from it. It is developing new defenses at a speed we have never seen before. In another few hours, we believe your body will have completely adapted to the toxin." CO1, who had been monitoring all the machines, made a surprised sound. "Look at his brain scans. The inflammation in the neural pathways is reversing. The toxin is not spreading. It is being broken down." 20 hours after drinking the toxin, something remarkable happened. Teo's pain dropped to level 2. His heart rate became completely normal. His brain scans showed that the inflammation was almost completely gone. The silver liquid that had been destroying his cells was now being broken down and removed from his body by his own immune system. Dr. Kira made the decision to open the sealed room. She wanted to give Teo medical care. She wanted to help him recover, but she also wanted to be near him because she had to see this with her own eyes. When the door to the sealed room opened, Teo tried to stand up. His legs were shaking and his whole body was weak, but he could stand. He could walk. He could move. "You are alive," said Dr. Kira, and there was a sound in her voice that the other scientists had never heard before. It was wonder. It was respect. It was something that might have been fear. "I am alive," agreed Teo, "and I still want to take more notes." They helped him to a medical bed in the main laboratory. Nurse Yunjin connected him to new machines that could see inside his body more clearly. They took more blood. They did more tests. Everything they checked showed the same thing. The toxin was gone. Teo's body had completely defeated it. But more than that, Teo's body had learned from it. His white blood cells now had defenses against the toxin. His immune system now knew how to recognize this poison and break it down. If Teo were exposed to the toxin again, his body would fight it even faster. "This is not possible," said a Cathrian medical expert named Tar, who had come to the laboratory to examine Teo himself. "No species has this ability. This is not a part of evolution. This is something new." "It is not new," said Teo quietly from his medical bed. His voice was weak, but his words were strong. "My people evolved in Africa millions of years ago. The climate kept changing. Sometimes it was hot. Sometimes it was cold. We had to survive droughts and diseases and predators. We had to be able to adapt quickly or we did not survive at all. Every human who is alive today is descended from humans who survived impossible situations." Dr. Kira looked at Teo with all 4 of her eyes. "Your species was forged in a fire that no other species has ever had to face." "Yes," said Teo. "And we are still here." The reports went out to the Coalition High Council. The same council that had voted against the experiment now had to accept the results. The same politicians who had said the experiment was impossible now had to explain to their peoples that humans possessed a quality no other species had demonstrated before. Humans could survive what was supposed to be unsurvivable. Humans could adapt to poisons and dangers at speeds that seemed to break the laws of biology. Humans could look at something that wanted to kill them and not just survive it, but learn from it. By the time Teo was strong enough to leave the sealed room and walk freely through the laboratory, the entire galaxy had changed its understanding of humanity. The small species from a small planet orbiting an average star had proven to be something far more remarkable than anyone had ever expected. And the strangest part was that to humans, this was not surprising at all. To humans, the only surprising thing was that other species were surprised, because survival, adaptation, and never giving up was what being human had always meant. The news of Dr. Teo's survival spread through the coalition faster than communication ships could travel, faster than messages could be sent. The story was told and retold, changing and growing with each telling. But the core of the story remained the same. A human had drunk a poison that killed everything instantly. The human had not died. The human had adapted and survived. The Coalition High Council called for an emergency session. This was not a normal meeting. This was the most important meeting the Coalition had held in 50 years. Representatives from every member world sent their leaders. Some came in person. Some sent holograms that appeared as glowing figures in the meeting room. Some representatives were angry. Some were afraid. Some were curious. The meeting room was on a neutral station, not on any one world. It was built to be fair to all species. The seats were different sizes and shapes because the different aliens needed different things. The Tarians sat on cushioned platforms. The Cathrians sat on hard crystal chairs that fit their bodies perfectly. The Zephilians had special small chairs that floated in the air. Dr. Kira stood at the center of the room. She had been asked to present her findings to the entire council. This was a huge honor and a huge responsibility. Everything she said would be repeated and discussed for weeks. The human doctor named Teo survived exposure to the Veloxian toxin, she began, and her 4 eyes looked at each representative one by one. He survived something that was supposed to kill any living thing in seconds. He did not just survive. He studied it while it was poisoning him. He took notes. He remained conscious. His body adapted to the threat and defeated it. A loud, angry voice interrupted her. It was a Tarian official named Grok. "This is insane. You allowed an uncontrolled experiment. You allowed a volunteer to nearly die. You violated every rule of safe science." "I allowed a brave scientist to risk his life for knowledge," Dr. Kira replied calmly. "And the knowledge he gave us is priceless. The human capacity for survival is greater than we ever thought possible." A Cathrian representative named Sarah stood up. She was cold and logical, like all Cathrians. "The question is not whether the human survived. The question is what this means for the Coalition. If humans can survive things that kill us instantly, are they a threat? Should we consider them biological weapons? Should we place them under restriction?" "That is not what this means," said Dr. Kira firmly. "This means that humans are a valuable member of the Coalition. It means that we need humans in our research. It means that humanity brings something to our galaxy that we did not have before." A Zephilian representative named Pip spoke in his quick, chirping voice. "I agree with Dr. Kira. Humans are our friends. I have worked with many humans. They are not dangerous. They are helpful. They are smart. They want to work with us." "You want to work with them?" said another voice, and this time it was a new voice in the meeting. Dr. Teo himself had been brought to the council chamber. He stood next to Dr. Kira, looking tired but strong. His eyes showed that he had suffered greatly, but they also showed that he was not afraid. "I am Dr. Teo," he said. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the room could hear him. "I volunteered for this experiment because I thought it was important. I thought that if my body could survive this poison, Then humanity could help the Coalition understand how to survive things that seemed impossible to survive. Sarah looked at him with cold eyes. And you do not fear that other species will see you as dangerous? I fear many things, said Teo. But I do not fear being helpful. I do not fear being different. I do not fear being strong. On my world, being different and strong is not a threat. It is a gift. It is something to share with others. The meeting continued for many hours. Representatives spoke in favor of humanity. Other representatives spoke with doubt. Some speakers wanted humans restricted. Some wanted to study humans more. Some wanted to welcome humanity as full members of the Coalition. Finally, a vote was held. The result was 47 representatives voting in favor of accepting humanity as full members of the Coalition. Only 5 representatives voted against it. The others did not vote at all because they wanted more time to think. Dr. Teo had changed the future just by surviving. After the vote, Dr. Kira embraced Teo. Even though she was a different species and her arms were very different from his arms, the embrace felt warm and safe. You did it, she said. You changed everything. I just did what I thought was right, said Teo. I did not know it would change everything. But it had. The news went out across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a small, unknown species trying to prove itself. Humanity was recognized as something special, something unique, something valuable. Back on Earth, humans heard the news and felt pride. They heard that one of their doctors had survived the unsurvivable. They heard that humans had something special inside them. They heard that the galaxy respected their species. In the weeks after the council vote, changes began to happen very quickly. Other human researchers and doctors were invited to work on Coalition research stations. Human scientists began studying problems that aliens had been trying to solve for centuries. Humans brought new perspectives and new ways of thinking. More than that, humans began to teach other species something important. Humans began to teach them that sometimes survival was not just about being strong. Sometimes survival was about being willing to try something new. Sometimes survival was about refusing to give up, even when the situation seemed hopeless. Dr. Teo stayed on Velox 7. He became the chief medical officer for the Coalition research station. He worked with Dr. Kira every single day. They became friends. They became colleagues. They became partners in understanding the universe better. But Teo never forgot the taste of that poison. He never forgot the feeling of his body fighting for survival. He never forgot the moment when he realized that his species was something truly special. And he never forgot why he had done it. He had done it because he wanted to help. He had done it because he believed that understanding and cooperation were more powerful than fear and separation. He had done it because he was human. 3 weeks after his recovery, Dr. Teo sat in the laboratory with Dr. Kira and Nurse Minho. They were looking at a microscope connected to a large screen. On the screen, they could see a single human cell magnified 1,000 times. Inside the cell, they could see things that looked like tiny machines. These were called organelles. They were the parts of the cell that made it work. "Look here," said Dr. Kira, pointing at a specific part of the cell with one of her 4 fingers. "This is a white blood cell from Teo's body, taken after he survived the toxin. Look at how it is shaped. Look at what it is doing." The cell on the screen looked different from normal cells. It looked stronger. It looked like it had learned how to fight. Around it, other cells floated by, and Teo's recovered cell seemed to recognize them and know exactly what to do. "This cell remembers the poison," said Minho softly. "It knows how to fight it now. It will always know. If Teo is exposed to the toxin again, his body will defeat it immediately." "But that is not the most interesting part," said Dr. Kira. She changed the image on the screen. Now they could see the genetic code of a human. It was long and complex, with millions of pieces of information written in a code of 4 letters, A, T, G, and C. These letters told the cell how to work and what to do. "Look at these sections," Dr. Kira said, highlighting certain parts in red. "These are what we call dormant genes. They are genes that are not active right now, but look at what they can do if they are activated." Minho leaned forward, studying the code carefully. His eyes got wider and wider as he understood what he was seeing. "Resistance to extreme heat," he read. "Resistance to extreme cold. Resistance to bacterial infections. Resistance to viral infections. Resistance to poisons. Resistance to starvation." He looked up at Dr. Kira. This is the history of Earth written in DNA." "Yes," said Dr. Kira. "This is exactly what it is. Your species did not just evolve in a dangerous world. Your species evolved in the most dangerous world any of us have ever studied. You survived ice ages. You survived plagues that killed most of your population. You survived hunters and predators and famines. Each time your species faced a new threat, the humans who survived those threats passed their resistance to their children. And their children passed it to their children. Millions of years of this created a species that can survive almost anything." Teo felt something strange in his chest as he listened. He felt proud, but also a little sad, because surviving all those dangers had cost his people so much. It had meant that many humans had died. It had meant that families had suffered. It had meant that his species had learned survival in the hardest possible way. "But there is something else," said Minho, who was still looking at the screen. "Look at these other genes, the ones that relate to the brain." Dr. Kira nodded. She highlighted another section of the DNA code. This section was different from the resistance genes. These were genes that controlled how the human brain worked. "These genes control adaptation under stress," she explained. "They control how quickly humans can solve problems when they are in danger. They control how well humans can focus when they are afraid. And they control something else. Something very important." She zoomed in further on the code. The details became smaller and smaller until they were looking at just a few letters. "These genes control what you call stubbornness," said Dr. Kira. "But we call it determination, refusal to accept defeat, the psychological drive to survive. Every human has this built into your very DNA. It is not something you learned, it is something you are." Nurse Minho stood up and walked over to the window. Outside, they could see the alien landscape of Velox 7. They could see the caves where the toxin had been discovered. They could see the research station rising up from the red ground. "This explains so much," Minho said quietly. "This explains why humans explore dangerous places. This explains why humans climb mountains that can kill them. This explains why humans search for cures to diseases even when everyone tells them it is impossible. This is not human courage. This is human nature. And this is why Teo survived," Dr. Kira added. She looked at Teo directly, with all 4 of her eyes focused on him. "When your body was being poisoned, you did not panic. You did not give up. You took notes. You studied your own death as it was happening. Most species would have simply accepted that they were dying. But you could not accept that. Your biology and your psychology combined to create something that refused to die." In the weeks that followed, Dr. Kira and her research team studied the genetic code of not just Teo, but of other humans on the station. They studied Minho and Siowan and Yunjin. They studied every human they could find, and they found the same thing in every single human, the same dormant genes, the same psychological drives, the same stubborn refusal to give up. They also discovered something surprising. The genes were not just about survival, they were about adaptation. Human DNA seemed to be designed for rapid change. When humans faced a new challenge, their bodies could adapt. When humans faced a new disease, their immune system could learn to fight it faster than any other species. When humans faced a new environment, They could change their behavior and their thinking to survive. It is like your species was made for a world that was constantly changing, Mina said one day. The small Zephylian scientist was examining data alongside Teo. Every other species evolved on a stable world. Their evolution happened slowly, but humans evolved on a world of chaos and danger, so your evolution happened fast. It had to happen fast, or you would all be dead. That is why we work so well with new situations, said Teo, understanding it for himself for the first time. That is why humans are good scientists and explorers. We evolved to change and adapt. We evolved to face the unknown and find a way to survive it. The discovery changed how the coalition understood humans. They were not just another species. They were a species that had been shaped by danger into something unique. They were a species that could survive what other species could not. They were a species that would always find a way forward, even when the path seemed blocked. And perhaps most importantly, humans wanted to share this knowledge. Humans wanted to help other species learn how to adapt better. Humans wanted to teach the galaxy what it meant to never give up. Dr. Teo began training other coalition scientists in human problem-solving techniques. He taught them how to think like humans. He taught them how to look at a problem and refuse to accept that it was unsolvable. He taught them how to take risks when the situation called for it. And slowly, the entire coalition began to change. Species that had been rivals for thousands of years began to work together better. Problems that had seemed impossible started to get solved. The galaxy became more cooperative. The galaxy became more optimistic. The galaxy became more human in its thinking, all because one doctor had been brave enough to drink poison and take notes about it, all because humanity refused to give up, just like humans always do.